Have you ever wondered what lies behind the greatest power in nature? Today, we will show you aspects of Donald Trump's life that you may never have seen before, the truths that the media has kept hidden from you. Donald Trump, a billionaire, a businessman, and the former president of the United States, has a rise-to-power story with many layers that most people do not know. Trump's life has always been filled with controversies, but his presidency started a new era in American politics. In 2016, when Trump won the presidential election, the world was shocked. Even political experts could not predict this outcome. The question is, how did a businessman with no political experience reach the most powerful office in America? The secret of Trump's success was his America First policy and his direct way of addressing the people. He bypassed traditional media through his statements on social media, which gave him direct access to the public. During Trump's presidency, the U.S. economy grew, taxes were reduced, and unemployment rates decreased. In 2017, the Trump administration introduced the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, which reduced the corporate tax rate from 35% to 21%. These tax cuts mostly benefited the wealthy, while the middle class saw little gain. Additionally, Trump's trade policies protected American companies, but also sparked trade wars with China and other nations. He imposed billions of dollars in tariffs against China, which retaliated with tariffs on U.S. goods. This trade war impacted ordinary American consumers, who had to pay higher prices for products. A major aspect of Trump's presidency was his immigration policies. He promised to build a wall with Mexico and introduced a zero-tolerance policy under which people entering the U.S. illegally were arrested. This led to children being separated from their parents, drawing widespread criticism. Trump also signed the executive order popularly known as the Muslim ban, restricting entry into the U.S. from 7 Muslim-majority countries. This order faced protests and legal challenges. Trump's presidency also brought significant changes in international relations. He withdrew from the Iran nuclear deal, the Paris Climate Agreement, and the World Health Organization. He also met with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, marking the first official meeting between a U.S. president and a North Korean leader. Another major aspect of Trump's presidency was his appointments to the Supreme Court. He appointed 3 justices, Neil Gorsuch, Brett Kavanaugh, and Amy Coney Barrett, shifting the ideological balance of the court to the right and creating a long-term conservative majority. Kavanaugh's appointment was especially controversial due to allegations of sexual misconduct. Under Trump, American society became more polarized. His rhetoric and controversial statements heightened racial tensions. After the 2017 white supremacist rally in Charlottesville, Trump remarked that there were very fine people on both sides, sparking outrage. During the COVID-19 pandemic, Trump's response was widely criticized. He downplayed the severity of the virus, dismissed the importance of masks, promoted unverified treatments such as hydroxychloroquine, and even suggested injecting disinfectant, drawing sharp condemnation from the medical community. More than 500,000 people died in the U.S., the highest toll of any country at that time. The end of Trump's presidency was equally controversial. After losing the 2020 election to Joe Biden, Trump challenged the results and made baseless claims of election fraud. On January 6, 2021, as Congress was certifying the election results, Trump supporters stormed the Capitol, leading to 5 deaths. Trump was accused of inciting the attack and became the first U.S. president to be impeached twice, though he was acquitted by the Senate. In 2024, Trump won the presidential election again, attempting to reintroduce many of his earlier policies, including tariff measures and initiatives like the One Big Beautiful Bill, which many Americans criticize. Recent surveys show that 61% of Americans oppose his tariff policies, and 46% disapprove of his tax and spending measures. During his second presidency, Trump's approval rating has fallen, with 53% of Americans saying he is making the federal government worse. From his first day back in office, Trump issued several executive actions that directly impacted LGBTQ+ health programs, initiatives, and policies. He revoked many of Biden's orders, including preventing and combating discrimination on the basis of gender identity or sexual orientation, Executive Order 13988, and advancing equality for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and intersex individuals, Executive Order 14075. Trump also canceled diversity and inclusion-related orders, potentially harming LGBTQ+ health and well-being. His relationship with the media remained hostile. He called them fake news and the enemy of the people, raising concerns about press freedom, a cornerstone of democracy. Trump's presence on social media, especially Twitter, now X, was a defining feature of his presidency. He often used Twitter for policy announcements and personal attacks. Following the Capitol attack, his account was suspended in 2021, but reinstated after Elon Musk acquired Twitter. Environmental policies also shifted under Trump. He revoked the Clean Power Plan, cut the EPA budget, and rolled back fossil fuel regulations, which experts warned could hinder progress against climate change. On gun control, Trump sided with conservatives, opposing stricter regulations even after numerous school shootings and maintaining NRA support. His policies also targeted social safety nets like Medicare and Medicaid. While he failed to fully repeal Obamacare, he weakened key provisions, including removing the individual mandate. Social movements like #MeToo and Black Lives Matter gained momentum during his presidency. Trump himself faced accusations of sexual misconduct, which he denied. After George Floyd's death in 2020, the BLM movement grew stronger, but Trump opposed it and deployed the National Guard against protests. Internet and social media use surged during his presidency, spreading fake news and propaganda. Allegations of foreign interference in U.S. elections, especially Russian meddling in 2016, dominated his early years. America's global reputation declined. Relations with European allies strained, while ties with North Korea and Russia improved. Trump called NATO obsolete and pressured European nations to increase defense spending. What if I told you that while America debates its political future, a 35-year-old soldier in West Africa has quietly become the most dangerous threat to everything the Western establishment represents, and Donald Trump might be the only American leader bold enough to either confront him or potentially align with him? This isn't about left versus right politics anymore. This is about two men who shattered every rule in the political playbook, and their collision course could reshape global power for the next century. Donald Trump, the billionaire real estate mogul who became the most unconventional president in American history, represents everything America has been: wealth, influence, and the power to dictate terms of the world. But Ibrahim Traoré, the young military leader who took control of Burkina Faso in a dramatic coup, represents something entirely different. He's the face of a new Africa that refuses to bow down, refuses to accept Western terms, and is actively dismantling decades of French and American influence across an entire continent. While Trump was building his empire with loans and deals, Traoré was studying electrical engineering and watching his people suffer under governments that served foreign interests more than their own citizens. While Trump was mastering the art of the deal in boardrooms overlooking Manhattan, Traoré was rising through military ranks, witnessing firsthand how international aid money disappeared into corrupt pockets, while children in his country couldn't get basic health care or education. The irony is striking. Trump, who campaigned on America First and challenged globalist institutions, might actually respect Traoré's Africa First approach more than traditional diplomats ever could. Both men understand power. Both men distrust established institutions. And both men have proven they're willing to break every diplomatic norm to achieve their goals. But here's where it gets interesting. While Trump faced investigations, impeachment attempts, and constant media scrutiny for challenging the American establishment, Traoré has been systematically expelling French forces, rejecting Western aid with conditions attached, and forming alliances with Russia and China, all while his popularity among ordinary Africans skyrockets. Think about this for a moment. Trump spent 4 years trying to renegotiate America's deals with the world, often facing resistance from his own government agencies and international partners. Traoré, in less than 2 years, has completely rewritten the rules of engagement between Africa and the West, and he's doing it with military precision and popular support that Trump could only dream of during his presidency. The mainstream American media largely ignores Traoré, which should tell you everything about how threatening he is to the current world order. They covered every Trump tweet, every rally, every controversy, but an African leader who's actively dismantling Western influence across multiple countries barely gets mentioned. This is an oversight. It's a strategic decision to keep Americans unaware of how dramatically the global balance of power is shifting. Traore represents something that terrifies Western policymakers more than any traditional military threat. He's proving that countries can prosper by rejecting Western involvement entirely. His government has increased gold production, improved security by partnering with non-Western allies, and maintained popular support while telling France, the United States, and other former colonial powers to take their conditions and their military bases and leave. Imagine if Trump had been able to implement his vision without congressional opposition, media resistance, or deep state interference. That's essentially what Traore has achieved in Burkina Faso, except his vision is about African independence rather than American greatness. Both men understand that real change requires disrupting established systems. But Traore has had the advantage of operating in an environment where dramatic action is not only accepted, but celebrated by citizens desperate for genuine leadership. The economic implications of a Trump-Traore dynamic are staggering when you really think about them. Trump has always understood that America's power comes from its economic dominance. The dollar as reserve currency, American corporations controlling global supply chains, and American financial institutions setting international terms. Traore is systematically challenging every aspect of his dominance across Africa, encouraging countries to trade in local currencies, partnering with Chinese and Russian companies instead of American ones, and proving that African nations can develop their resources without Western oversight or approval. If Trump returns to power, he'll face a completely different Africa than the one he dealt with during his first presidency. Traore's influence has spread across multiple countries in the Sahel region, creating a bloc of nations that are no longer automatically aligned with Western interests. This isn't necessarily bad for America. It could actually create opportunities for more honest, transactional relationships based on mutual benefit rather than historical colonial dynamics. Both Trump and Traore share a deep skepticism of international organizations and multilateral agreements that constrain national sovereignty. Trump withdrew from or renegotiated numerous international accords, arguing they disadvantaged America. Traore has rejected international aid programs and security partnerships that came with conditions limiting his government's autonomy. They both believe that true leadership means prioritizing your own people's interests over international opinion or diplomatic niceties.